Hello and welcome to That's So Craven, your one-stop shop for all things Fulham. This is Dave and this is After Dark. And tonight we're going to be previewing this Saturday's match at Craven Cottage, where Fulham host the mighty Leeds United, the pride of God's country, Yorkshire. Remember the 70s or the 70s. Anyway, welcome to everyone joining us live on X, on YouTube, and on Facebook. And as always, please send us in your questions and we'll do our best to answer those throughout the show. And joining me tonight, it's the After Dark MVP. It's Fulham legend Mary Southgate and Townsend. 2 weeks to stew on the VAR stuff that ruined the Chelsea match. I just wanted to see if you're over it yet and if Josh King winning Fulham Goal of the Month has helped.
Well, Josh King winning Goal of the Month, absolutely love it. Like, what a statement, just to back to VAR being like, do you know what? You've really messed this one up. But I have seen that they have, well, quite rightly said that they were wrong about it. I think it's just so frustrating because it's one of those where it really changed the game and we were absolutely playing. We were the better team in that bit. We had the upper hand. We got that goal at such a good moment. The energy that would have come from that. So, yeah, it's always going to annoy me, that one, unfortunately. But we have to move on. And I guess the annoying thing is we've had international breaks, so we haven't been able to get back to the league games and move forwards. But I'm looking forward to this Saturday back at the Cottage, proper 3:00 kickoff. How we like it, home game. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. But I just find it's always a bit odd when you have an international break. You just, I don't know, feel a bit lost for a bit because. Like, where is the football? I know there is football on, and when the World Cup comes round, we'll be absolutely buzzing. And I'll be out at as many matches as possible watching them. But yeah, I don't know. There's something about not having Fulham games on.
Yeah, no, it's awful, especially when you just started and then you have to stop, and it's just awful. We're also joined tonight by Michael Timbry, the Fulham and England traveller, and Mike. You didn't get a ticket for Serbia last night, but you did make it to Saturday's snooze fest against Andorra. How was that?
Next.
Yeah. Next question.
That's all I got to say about it. So, yeah. But last night was a good result, but not for Sasha Lukic, unfortunately. So.
He did, however, pick up his customary yellow card, which was quite entertaining after about 20 minutes. So his third yellow of the season. Thank God that doesn't count towards his Premier League tally up. He's going to be there, I think, by the end of September on a suspension. Might be a new record, I think, knowing Sasha.
It did say this his next game when he got booked. So it was like, oh, yeah, that looks familiar.
Yeah, it's only a matter of time for Sasha. And but yeah, never mind. So before we get into the Leeds stuff, obviously during the international break, the club released Tom Cairney's documentary. It's like an hour and 40 minutes. It was a long but really great watch, in my opinion. Mike, you've seen it, I know. What was your thoughts? Did you think the club did a good job? Do you think this made up for the lack of testimonial? What's your thoughts on the whole situation?
I do think they did a good job with the documentary. I enjoyed it. It was nice to have a little trip down a recent memory lane and relive some of those great moments. It was also good that they glossed over the 2 relegation seasons quite quickly because nobody wants to remember those. So brilliant to see some of his classic goals as well. The amount of trademark sort of left foot curlers into a top corner was nice to relive. Do I think it makes up for a lack of a testimonial? No, I still think that is owed to Tom Cairney and the fans. So I would like to see that. But I think that's something that can wait until he's leaving. It's something that, you know, we didn't know what was happening at the end of last season, and I felt that the way that was handled by the club wasn't good. Somebody of Cairney's stature deserves a lot better than just don't know what's happening next, guys. So when the time comes that he does leave, I'd like it to be, with a huge sort of pomp and ceremony about it, and give the fans the chance to say thank you to a club legend and a stalwart. So good job with the documentary, but I don't think that papers over any cracks as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, for sure. And Mary, are you pleased, presumably, to see him being recognised? Michael mentioned the stature of Tom Cairney, and there's a bit of a debate actually about whether there should be a statue erected of our captain. I know that Ryan Sessegnon's been pushing it. What's your take on this?
I feel like it's been something we've been saying for a few years in the fan body, actually, and then now that he's hit 10 years and into his 11th, it's something that's definitely out and about. But yeah, I don't think anything will ever take over the not the Michael Jackson one, before anyone thinks I'm going to say that. But the Johnny Haynes statue is 18 years he did. That's amazing. But yeah. I think evening DJ Welly. Oh, that I thought someone just called you DJ Welly, but you're saying
no, that's sorry. Yeah, David Wellington's joined us in the group, but on Discord he's known as DJ Welly, so I just thought I'd give him a little shout. I thought someone called
you that one. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's something that there's two sides to it, isn't there? It would be amazing. He does need to be recognised, and the documentary is a really nice way of doing that in a different sort of way. Two minds about the statue. Because it's then like, where do you draw the line? Do we do this every time a player hits 10 years or more? And that sounds a bit negative. So yeah, it's difficult. But I think absolutely when the time comes that he leaves, something needs to be done properly. The documentary shouldn't just be it. We need something properly that we can celebrate him, everything he's done, all the memories, the goals, everything, how committed he's been. So yeah, something does need to be done, but I'm sort of in two minds about the statue. But yeah, I can absolutely see why we should have it.
I'm kind of with you on that. I think that, if I was Simon Morgan and Tom Cairney got a statue, I'd be pretty annoyed. I'd be like, what? I went up for all the divisions, except the Premier League. But yeah. Anyway, Mike, what's your take on the situation? Do you think Tom should get a statue? And also, second question, quite nice to see some old faces in the documentary. Obviously, some players that were quite close to Tom Cairney throughout his time. That was quite enjoyable, wasn't it?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's nice to see that his teammates of yesteryears and current as well appreciate the quality that he brings. And I think there's always been a lot of questions about what Tom Cairney is as a captain for us, because he's not the traditional, barking orders at everybody kind of captain. I think you can see his leadership qualities from the way that others talk about him, is that he's a lead by example kind of guy. And you don't have to be one of those, traditional captains to have that sort of influence over your teammates. So it was nice to see him talked about in such high regard behind the scenes, as well as his ability on the pitch. As regards to the statue, I don't really have a strong opinion on it either way. I think if he wins like a major trophy as our captain, then that might be the sort of thing that pushes it in favour. But yeah, I don't mind either way. I think that he deserves to be honoured in some way, shape or form. And I would probably prefer a testimonial than a statue. But, it's up to the club and the powers that be that get to decide what goes there. I mean, can we fit it in now? Because we've got all these various, fancy places in the Riverside that make no reference to football whatsoever. So we might not be allowed a statue of a footballer at a football stadium anymore.
Well, it certainly can't go in the Riverside, I wouldn't have thought, given that, the fact that they're trying to disassociate from football in that part of the ground for non-match day customers. But I'm sure they could find some space somewhere if they really wanted to. But I think the nice thing for me was just you know, having that to watch, and just as you said at the start, Mike, just going through all of the old goals that he scored throughout the years, you just forget how many great goals he scored for us. And it's just nice to see a little bit behind the scenes as well. He looks like he's got a lovely family behind him, and you know, he really is, you know, a Fulham man. And you know, I'm in some ways, I think I'm a bit torn. Like in some ways, I think, you know, perhaps it was a right time for him to go at the end of last season, and perhaps we should have brought in, and you know, someone else that was, you know, potentially got more legs and give us more quality in midfield. But Tom can still do it off the bench. He showed that at Brentford last year, didn't he? And I think, you know, that those kind of games, those kind of moments, he'll be important, I think, this year, won't he, Mary?
Yeah, I think he's someone that we won't really see start, which we know, but he can control a game, and he will always be able to come on and change the tempo to what we need, whether he plays in the number 10 or we play him a little bit deeper and we need him to hold a bit more in front of defence. Obviously, he's over the years been better higher up, but he absolutely understands the game management, the tempo of the game. Like I said, he'll slow it down when we need to and possess the ball, or when we need to find those cutting passes and speed it up, he will travel and pass at the right time. So yeah, I think he still has great qualities that will add to our games, and that we'll need in those, you know, last 15, 20 minutes, 25 minutes of games. And hopefully he'll pull out a few more left foot top bin goals. You never know, he's got a few more in him.
That would be amazing. Yes, bring it on. Bring it on. In fact, after watching that, Doc, I think he'd love to do that against Leeds. So you never know. You might get a chance off the bench on Saturday. That's a good place to start, actually. I thought we'd start just by looking at Leeds. Obviously promoted last season, and they've made a lot of signings. Mike, you probably know some of these players more than we do. I mean, I know Calvert-Lewin, obviously, and Sean Longstaff came from Newcastle. What do you make of Leeds and their transfer business this summer?
I think it's early to tell whether that'll be a success for them, but I think it's a statement of intent that, you know, they've gone on the market, a bit like Sunderland, probably not to that same degree, but they're not here to just get the Premier League club and go back down. You know, Leeds are a big club with a big history, and people see them as a Premier League club, so they want to be, you know, in the top division for the foreseeable. And I think they, as a statement of intent, but also similar to the way that we did when we tried to kind of beef up their side a bit. I think Daniel Farke's the kind of manager who's renowned for playing pretty football but being a soft touch. You can see with some of the stature of some of their signings that they've gone for a bit more of a physical presence. I think Sean Longstaff has slotted in the team, as has Stack, the midfielder as well. Goalkeeper, he was at Lyon, I believe, who they were probably quite sort of him. As a side note for that, Harry Enfield fans will really be hoping there's some sort of end, but hopefully it works out in our favour. Who else have we got? I really liked what I saw from him in the first game when they played against Everton, but then I saw him get turned inside out by a 15-year-old when they lost to Arsenal heavily. So I'm a bit unsure about him, but I think he had a good pedigree coming from Lille, who had a good run. Calvert-Lewin for me was worth the gamble for a club like Leeds. They've got so it's not like they need him to be fit the whole season, but he's somebody who we've seen as proven Premier League quality. If they can get a tune out of him and get him fit, and he could be a difference maker. And then of course Okafor as well is coming from Milan, a bit like our Samuel Chukwueze as well, who's surplus to require, could have the quality needed. So yeah, I jury's out obviously because it's early days. Impressed with the statement intent and the profile of player that they've gone for.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. I don't know if it's you, Mike, or if it's my internet. It seemed a bit choppy there. I'm not too sure what was going on, but I think we got bits and pieces there. So thanks for the review. I'm glad I went. Got your insight on some of those players because I hadn't heard of some of them. So that was good. Mary, Leeds. Let's have a look at the results that they've had so far this season. I can't see that. To be totally honest with you, it's far too small. I haven't got my glasses on, but yeah, it's been. The game against Arsenal was obviously quite humbling for them to get stuff 5-0. Arsenal's a great side, but it's not particularly good start to get thumped in your first few games. It's not going to be great for their confidence. Do you think? What opportunities is that an opportunity for us that they've already been in the capital once this season and taken a thump in, and shows that there is vulnerability there for Fulham to exploit?
100%. I think firstly, I absolutely believe we'll win this game.
Mhm.
But yeah, they started off really well, 1-0 against Everton. Everton aren't the team they were a few years ago. At the moment, they are still trying to get a bit stronger. But when you're playing Arsenal away, you've just been promoted, you shouldn't really be looking to, you should be holding a bit more, trying to park the bus at times and have a really good block. And to then go and lose 5-0, they've either set up wrong or they just aren't strong enough. And like you said, there's gaps or there's vulnerabilities that we can exploit, because 5-0 is a big scoreline. And like I said, against a strong team, you'd like to think they're setting up in a way that can try and nullify some of those things. But yeah, I think in attack we'll be really strong, especially if we're going at them with pace, like we often say. I think they'll probably look to try and play on the counter a little bit and probably try and keep possession and control it. But I do believe that we are going to be the more dominant team. I think 4 of their new signings have been starting recently, so there's a few fresh people in the team. Yes, they're very good players, and they've come in from good experience and good backgrounds. But like we can see, I mean, ours isn't that much better, but they've scored 2 goals and conceded, what is that, 6 goals.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's lots of space for us to go and attack and get some goals against them.
Yeah, Mike, only 1 goal in the Premier League in the first 3 games. Sometimes you see this with newly promoted teams. It's like, where the goal's going to come from. Have Leeds got that issue, do you think?
Possibly. I mean, the game against Newcastle was just a dreadful game in terms of as a spectacle. It was a really boring game, as I watched that one as well, because unsurprisingly for Leeds, all of their games have been televised on Sky Sports Leeds. So that's of course, coming to Fulham, that one doesn't warrant quite as much scrutiny. But anyway, possibly it's always going to be a challenge for the promoted sides to have a regular goal scorer that can adapt to the level. That's why, as I say, I felt Calvert-Lewin was worth the gamble for them. Leeds home form will probably be the key for them. So the fact that they've picked up 4 points and haven't conceded at home suggests that that's where their strength will be. I don't think we can read too much into a game away at Arsenal, who are obviously a top side. That could probably happen to anybody. So they didn't offer much that day, but I think it's too early to tell whether they will be, they will have problems scoring goals. I think they would probably fancy that they've got enough goals in that squad to do enough to keep them in the division and possibly push higher.
Yeah. Okay. Well, on to Fulham, and we've made a few signings ourselves, as we discussed on the last podcast. Kevin, of which has been training for the last couple of weeks since he signed. We've been getting little snippets on the Fulham X and Instagram page of him in training. Mike, I don't know if you saw the one earlier today. Actually, Mary, I'll pose this one to you. There was a clip earlier today of Kevin, and he was up against, it looked like they were doing drills, wingers against fullbacks, from what I could see. And he was up against Kenny Tete and Robinson, and it looked like he was giving them both all kinds of problems. Is that a good sign that perhaps. And also, I don't know if you heard, Tom Cairney also said, wow, this guy, man, we thought we'd signed Pele's son. And I don't know if he was just, trying to G up the crowd on his night, but I don't know. It does make you quite excited. And do you expect him to feature at all on Saturday?
Do I expect him to feature? I think on the bench to start with. I can't see that he'll come straight in and start when he's had no sort of competitive match moment with us yet. I could be completely wrong and he might come and start, but I think we could see him on the bench, especially if he's having this much impact. And like you say, if he's giving Tete and Robinson a hard time, two of the strongest fullbacks, and they're having a hard time, then we've got a right player on board, which is really exciting. But I think, I don't think he will start. But then saying that, we've got Iwobi that's been playing out there at the moment, and he's played 2 90-minute games in the for Nigeria. So that's something for Marco to take into consideration. He's played 180 minutes in the last few days, but then so has Bassi actually. So I think Bassi got an assist last game, maybe today or
he scored
yesterday. Bassi.
Yeah, he scored. He scored a handball goal, which was quite amazing. Yeah, there was no VAR.
But yeah, they've both played 90 minutes in the last few days, so 90 minutes. So that will be taken into account, which does throw a few questions out about what the lineup will be. But in terms of Kevin, I would really like to see him come on. I think what a moment if he comes on at home crowd. It could be a really good opportunity as well against Leeds, that if we're able to capitalise on them and tire them out a little bit and take advantage and have possession, and then we bring him on with some energy and speed and he can keep going at them, I think that would be a really good move. But yeah, who knows what Marco Silva will do.
Yeah, it's a tricky one to call this weekend. Mike, obviously Kevin's been training with us, but, Marco doesn't tend to throw people straight in. I guess he's going to have to consider, how players are when they return from international duty. We've notoriously struggled after international breaks, and I wonder if that might be on his mind a bit. Some of the other new boys, you've got Chukwueze. He didn't seem to feature much for Nigeria. He had a lot of time on the bench. It doesn't appear to have been involved in any Fulham training session since he's joined. So it feels like games come quite early for him. The other lads that we signed, JKA, he scored the under-21, Sweden under-21s. Really lovely little chip finish. And there's a bit of a slight injury concern for Raul, who apparently came off after 60 minutes last night and had a nice pack on his knee. He scored as well, by the way. Do you think there's going to be any integration of these three players, or do you think Marco will just go tried and trusted for this one?
I would expect those new signings to be on the bench. I'm not sure about Kusiasere. I think he might not make the matchday squad depending on Raul's fitness, but I wouldn't expect any of them to start. I think he'll probably go Iwobi and then either Wilson or Traore as the other wide player to start. Just because we know that he likes to integrate players into the team slowly and wants to have, them playing in a certain way and understanding how, the system works and what the tactics are. Also, as well, I feel like somebody like Kevin coming off the bench would probably give the crowd a bit of a lift if and when that does happen. It's a bit of a throwback to the old days of, we've signed this player, but we know nothing about him, but he sounds exciting. So it might just give the crowd a bit of a buzz if and when we need it. My expectation would be that those guys probably get their first start in the Cup against Cambridge in a couple of weeks' time. I wouldn't see them starting before that, but you don't know. If they come on and make an impact on Saturday, then maybe the following week. But I think Silva will probably go with what he knows for this game, particularly as it's been quite a short time that he'll have had the whole squad back together.
Yeah, Steve Reynolds agrees with you. Cambridge probably the first minutes for the new signings. Mary Michael just mentioned that he foresees Iwobi on one side, Wilson on the other. That would suggest the return to our classic 4-5-1, whatever you want to call it, formation. Obviously, this season so far, we've played 3 games with 3 at the back. Are you two expecting a change back to the normal system? And do you think that means we might see Jedi as well, considering he's involved in these training videos?
Yeah, and he's been coming on a little bit as well, hasn't he? So I think he's getting a bit more fit, match fit, and hopefully recovering back to the tempo we need. But I don't know if I think Robertson will start, but I'd like to see him come on. I'd also like to see us go back to the 4 at the back and possibly bring Wilson on. Funny game for him to start in when we thought he was going a few days ago, but what a way to play a player. So yeah, it would be good to have him, but I just think there's a few different combinations he could do. Like I said about Iwobi playing 180 minutes and the travel and all that. Is that too much? I don't think so. I think hopefully he'll start, but then you've got King in that the number 10 position. We've got ESR coming in trying to fight for that. I think we'll start with King, and probably if we're playing 4 at the back, then probably have, well, I don't know, Wilson or Traore's got to be there. But then if we talk about Kevin being on the subs bench, so one of them probably has got to miss out as well. So yeah, I think Marcus Silva's got to have a few different plans, a plan A, plan B. If I make different subs, who could I put where? I can bring Iwobi in. I think Iwobi played in the 10 against in one of his games this week, so we know he can play there. He either played in the 10 or dropped back a little bit. So yeah, I think it's a game where if we're trying to bring in some of our new signings onto the bench, some people will miss out, which is a shame. But he's going to have to work out who can play where. We've got a few versatile players, which is good. And Mooney's, I expect to see up top, really.
Yeah, no, that's fair. So, Mike, is this a game where we need Berger and Lukic in the centre of the pitch? Marco's spoken about trying to get ESR and King in the same team. You know, is that a clue that that's what we might see on Saturday? And another question, just based on what Mary was saying about whether it comes too soon for Jedi or not. If Jedi is fit and Sess is, back on the bench, what's his role this season, do you think? Because Jedi doesn't tend to miss many. We've signed 2 wingers as well. He was filling in last year on the wing and doing a blinding job. What's his role this season, do you think?
So on Sessignon, I think that he will probably be, a backup player essentially, but one that we will maybe pick to play against specific opponents. For example, like if we do play the kind of the wing back formation, then he's more suited to that. I think from an attacking perspective, he offers more goal threat from there. He can still do a job for us on either wing as well. There are certain fixtures where we'll probably want that additional kind of threat of players that will attack the box, and whereas some of our other wingers tend to hang out wide too often or hang out deep, he really gets himself in there to try and score those scrappy goals that count, just the same as a screamer or just the same as a nice intricate passing move. So he'll have a role. It just won't necessarily be the starting role that we've seen from him every week so far this season, and that's been because of Robinson's injury. The recovery from the surgery that he had. In terms of Berger and Lukic, I think we'll start with that again. I think that's our midfield too, in that I don't see any need to really break that up. Certainly to start a game, it might be something that we eventually kind of, disrupt as the game progresses, if and when we need to do that. But I think they've formed quite a good understanding between them and a good partnership, and I don't see any need to break that up just yet for the sake of trying to shoehorn an extra attacking player in that might end up leaving us a bit light defensively.
But I guess home to Leeds, a team that we expect to be in the bottom half of the table come the end of the season, if not in and around the relegation area. There's been criticism that, Berger and Lukic could be seen as slightly negative playing together at home. There's obviously, it's not just King and ESR that can play there. Iwobi, as Mary said, has played there Nigeria, and would provide a bit more, I don't know, I suppose, craft, and he might be able to, carry the ball forward a bit more than either of those two tend to. Link up play with the attackers a little bit better. You don't think that Silva will look at that? You think he'll just kind of stick to the two, and that it's their position to keep hold of?
Yeah, I would expect so. I think he's very much the kind of manager who, once you've got the shirt, it's yours to lose. And I think that, okay, our results haven't necessarily been spectacular so far this season, but we know we've had a hard start, and I don't think either of those guys have done anything to warrant being dropped. I know Leeds are a team at home that we would think, oh, we need to win that game, we should be winning that game, but it's not Andorra. It's somebody that we can't expect, oh, we're going to steamroller these guys, so let's just go gung-ho and play kamikaze football with loads of attacking midfield players. We still need to have a structure and a formation that is suitable to deal with the threat that they will offer.
Interesting. Mary, we need three. Do we need, how big a game is this? Do we really need 3 points here? I mean, we're 2 points from the first 3 games. Okay, it's been really tough fixtures, but we've only got 2 points. We're in the bottom 3. We've got Brentford next week. Another game I suspect we're looking at thinking, there's an opportunity for another 3 points. After that, it gets tough again. There's some 3 really tough games, 2 away games, Villa, Newcastle, Arsenal at home. It's a tough little period. I think Bournemouth away in there as well. So do we really need to win this? And you seem really confident at the start that we will. But how important is it that we actually get the points on the board?
Yeah, I am confident. I'm confident and in full faith, full belief that we're going to get a win. But it is super important. I think, like Steve mentioned in the chat, these are the teams we've got to win. We can't fall down on these ones. Okay, like there's moments we might get a really good point against the top teams and the tougher teams, or a cheeky win here and there against them, which would be amazing. But these are the teams we've got to be like, no, we are better than you. We are Fulham. We're going to be like mid-table or maybe higher, and not waste opportunities. I think we've got to go into that game being dominant. I know you're saying about like having Berger and Lukic, is that a bit less attacking, I suppose, but it also shows, I sort of look at it on the other side, that actually we're trying to protect, we're going to try and make sure we get that clean sheet and we're secure in defence, and then we know we're really good and fast in attack. And so I think it's good to have the Berger Lukic combo even at home, just to really secure our home record if we can, and be a place that's really tough to come to. But yeah, it's a must-win game. It's really important. It will help with the energy going into Brentford, which, like you said, is winnable, totally winnable. But it is these teams that we've got to capitalise on and just try and put our dominance into it straight away, I think. Especially whilst it's early in the season. I know they might have, newly promoted energy and let's go and give every team something new. We don't know too much about them. It's only week 4, I think, isn't it, in the Premier League? So nobody knows everything about each other yet. So they'll have that energy, but let's just pin them down and must win game.
And there's plenty on the bench if we need it. If that is the team we start with, you're talking potentially Kevin Chukwueze, the new guy. You've got Raul Jimenez. We've got ESR, Tom Cairney. We spoke about either Adama or Wilson. I mean, it's really stacked now, the bench. When everyone's fit, so plenty of options there if we need them to turn the game around. Mike, where do you see the opportunities for Fulham? I had a look and I see that is it Craig Pawson, the ref? I don't recall him having a major issue with him before. I think he had a problem last week. He was on VAR for Everton, wasn't he? And they've just said that he got the decision wrong there. But I don't think he's as bad appointment as Rob Jones and Kavanagh in the last 2 games.
I mean, we're due some good karma from a ref, so it's the kind of thing where it will probably come at the expense of some poor sods like Wolves or Sunderland, rather than like Chelsea or Man United that we get our good fortune turned around against. But yeah, I don't really care who the ref is. I can't say I'm particularly enamoured by any of them, so it doesn't really matter in that regard. I wouldn't quite agree with Mary in that I think it's a must-win game in terms of like it's early in the season, so it's a bit too early to be saying we absolutely have to win this. But if our aspirations are to qualify for Europe this season through our league position, then these are the kind of games that we need to be picking up maximum points from. So I'd look at the run of fixtures that we've got next, and I'd imagine that the management team have probably got a points target in mind for the next 4 or 5 games, probably somewhere between 6 and 9 maybe, because you can play badly and you can drop points in Premier League games regardless of the opponents. So we saw that at home to Wolves last season. We thought we were going to turn up and turn them over comfortably, and it went completely the other way. So it can happen. I just think that we need to attack the game, be positive, and play our football, and look to be on the front foot early, and we should hopefully get a positive result.
Yeah, no, it's true. And as Colin Bugler says in the chat, Leeds goalkeeper's injured.
Oh, my Kevin and Perry joke died with that.
Yeah, it did. So that's good, because that means that what's his name, Melier, is it? He'll be in. Not a big fan of him at all. No. So I think that's potentially an opportunity. He also mentions they don't usually play well in London, so hopefully that will continue. I'm sure they think this is going to be a really tough game. And I just hope that we turn up and show them what we're all about. It'd be great just to kind of get that first win off our backs at home. So I'm really looking forward to the game. Mary, if I was to push you for a prediction, what would you say?
Do you know what? I am going to go. Well, I was going to give them a goal then. I was going to say 3-1. But then I'm thinking, where are they getting a goal from? So maybe 2-0. 2-0.
Okay, Mike?
I am going to give them a goal, because we always concede, even if we've played and defended really well. For some reason, we do something stupid. But I still fancy us to win, so I'm going to go 2-1.
Yeah, as long as it's not another penalty that we concede. I can't go every game conceding a penalty. It would just be ridiculous. So that would be a win if we can avoid doing that. I think it could be a 3-4-0 kind of game for us. I think we're capable of that. And I think that even if we are drawing at half time, we've got so much off the bench that can come on and change the game much more than they do. And Jesus, I think they'd have to play really, really well to get a win against us here and keep us out. So hopefully we can do this. So okay, so that's everyone's optimistic. That's always good. Mary's really got me confident, so that's pleasing. I thought we'd have a little look as well at the group chat and see what questions we've been given. But before I do, I just noticed a few comments coming in from the guys. So Colin Bugler's gone with 2-0. He's actually called the scorers Muniz and Anderson. I think it'd be quite funny if Muniz and Wilson were the scorers, considering the links to Leeds this summer. That seems quite fitting. And Steve's gone a 2-0 with a VAR bugger up again, but for Leeds. So as you were saying, Michael, maybe this would be the game where it evens out a little bit. Be about time in our favour. Right. So questions from, there's only a couple. So I'll give you first was from Spanish FFC Ultras. I'll throw this to Mike. It says, whilst most people do not like PSR, has it also not benefited us in so much as that we have been forced to bring forward the youth team members into the main squad? I guess he'd be talking about obviously Josh King, but we had Godot last year, and obviously there's a lot of talk about Ridgen. What's your thoughts on that?
So I'm not a fan of PSR because I think it stifles ambition of middling clubs like ourselves, Palace, Bournemouth, etc. It's essentially the big clubs being allowed to pull up a drawbridge to stop people getting in. It's, you know, UEFA and FIFA's answer to the Super League breakaway. It's all the kind of things that I think are wrong with football and ambitious clubs. In regards to our own sort of youth development, I don't think PSR has been really had an impact on that for us, because I think if the players are good enough, they will get themselves into the squad. We've seen before, Sessegnon made his debut at 17 because he was good enough. That didn't have anything to do with who we could and couldn't sign. You know, we'd have probably found pathways for the likes of Elliott and Carvalho before Liverpool decided to steal our kids because of PSR, because they weren't allowed to compete financially with the bigger clubs that could spend state money. So yeah, if anything, PSR has probably impacted our ability to bring through younger players because the good ones get stolen. So yeah, it is really nice to see young players that have come through at Fulham finally making it into the Fulham first team. You know, and long may it continue. We've had, you know, reportedly one of the best academies for quite a long time now. We've rarely seen the fruits of it because it just kind of gets taken from us too quickly, or for one reason or another, you know, we lose those players. And you know, hopefully King can be a mainstay of our first team for a long time to come, and others can follow suit.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And quick hello to Russ, who's joined us in the chat and is predicting a 3-1 win to Fulham. So yeah, I like that. I like that, Russ. That's everyone's very positive about this one, which is great. Mary, this is a question from Lewis. As pal of mine, sits behind me actually in Hammersmith End, and he says, now that we've got a strong squad, who misses out on the bench this weekend? A few big names who are usually in the squad will eventually end up missing out due to the new additions. It might even be this weekend. So, as he says, you know, if you look at, you know, the squad from the last game, it's not as if the bench was all supplemented with youngsters. It was, you know, it was Raul Jimenez, it was Adama, it was Harry Wilson, ESR, Cairney, Reed, Diop, and I want to say Cuenca. All first team kind of players. Now you add into the mix, you've got JKA, you've got Kevin, and you've got Chukwueze. Senior players are going to have to sit this one out. Now, Mike, he might take the easy option this weekend of saying, well, Chukwueze and JKA have not had any training sessions with us. It might, you know, we can afford to give them an extra week. But at some point, he's going to have a bit of a headache on that bench. I mean, who do you think is going to be the casualties of this?
He is going to have a headache, and a good headache, because it means that we've got much more depth and strength in our depth, which is really positive, and it's what we all want. I think the only one I can see coming in this week on the subs bench would be Kevin, for the reasons that you've just said. I think Marco's got to look at, like I said earlier, who can play where. We've got flexibility in who can play multiple positions. So he has got to look at, where can I sort of use a player for two positions? So, and where do I normally make subs? And we know he makes subs higher up, really. I can see someone like Harrison Reed starting to drop off, maybe bumped out of the matchday squad. But then you've got someone like Wilson, who we know can play in the 10, or he could play wide if he wasn't starting and he came on. Or equally, if he was starting, he could be shifted from wide into the number 10. You've got Iwobi that could shift in. I mean, Jimenez, I know you mentioned, was injured. Don't know whether he'll be all right for Saturday, or not. TC, will we see him every game? I'm not sure, to be honest. I think it might depend on the game. But again, do we need Reed and TC on the bench? It's a really tricky one, and we will see players that are experienced and players that have had a good impact for us dropping out, and maybe, depending on the opposition, there'll be weeks when they're in, there'll be weeks when they're out. Depends what Marco's looking for. And if he does shift away from the Lukic-Berger combo, then again, that will change who he wants on his bench. But I think Harrison Reed is one that will probably start to drop off. Maybe TC. We've got Traore, Wilson, all very similar positions.
I'd agree on that, Mary. I think it's the players who offer flexibility that are more likely to find themselves in the match day squad. I think as well, though, having a bit of depth in the squad means that training is going to be intense now. Like, nobody can rest on their laurels, which is exactly what we want. We don't want people coasting through training sessions or games. And I think you might find somebody like a Traore, who doesn't always look like he's quite giving it his all, might find himself a bit of a victim of that. We won't need two centre backs on the bench, most weeks. So Cuenca or Diop, if they're not getting in the side, they'll probably be fighting it out between them just for the place on the bench. So it's good though, good strength of depth and competition for places. That's what Silva wanted, so he's got it now.
Yeah, he does. I think you've mentioned Adama. I think he'd certainly be in the category along with Harrison Reed as players who are probably going to slip out of the match day squad when everyone's fit. But look, there's still the possibility of injuries and suspensions. They're going to come. So everyone's going to get opportunities. We've also got AFCON, and it's longer than I thought. It sounds like those, the guys on AFCON, if they go the whole way, they could be out for 7 to 8 games, I read. So that's a big chunk, right?
The FA Cup, that would be, so FA Cup third round is around the time of when the final is. But obviously December, there's more Premier League fixtures because there's less European games. So yeah, it could be anything up to that. And also as well, remember that, we want to go deep in both cup competitions, so we're going to need a squad. So it's good to have those options. And just because a player's not in the squad on a Saturday doesn't mean they won't be involved, on the Tuesday if we've got a cup game.
Yeah, I think, Mary, it's important that we do continue, for a lot of reasons, it's important that we continue to progress in the cup. And but not least because it's going to give some of the squad players more game time.
Yeah, 100%. And that's what they need. They just need, you can train all you like, but if you're not playing in the matches, it's very different. The decision making you're having to develop and make is very different in a competitive match to training. So they absolutely should be playing in some cup games, not just for match experience, but because they're good enough to represent us in league or cup games. And so, I think the depth, and like one of you mentioned earlier, injuries will come into play. AFCON will come into play. Yellow cards, suspensions will come into play. Hopefully no red cards. So the depth and having this strength will be really important. And I expect to see some of our new signings making appearances in the cups as well, just to get those minutes and getting them playing with our regular players so that they can start to link up and it become a bit more fluid than them just coming in and trying to work it out as we go. They just need that practice to really get in, get the links going, get the combos going, and relationships on the pitch.
Yeah, 100%. And hopefully more ties like Cambridge at home. I'd be quite happy to go through the whole tournament playing lower league sides at home, just for this very reason. I mean, number one, you'd fancy us to win the game because we've got the squad depth to win those games, as we saw against Bristol City, who are no mugs, by the way, in the Championship. It just gives us a great opportunity to play some of these new players, but also progress and finally get our hands or get to Wembley and just make it a special season. So that's the great thing about the draw so far, I think, and just hopefully that we continue to get that luck as things move forward. Okay, so look, everyone's positive about Saturday. Everyone's predicting comfortable Fulham wins. That will upset, I'm sure, our opponents, but they're quite easily upset, the old Leeds fans. So hopefully it's another miserable afternoon for them, and the Fulham Hammersmith Ender singing the old Leeds are falling apart again song. That would be great. Just want to thank everyone for joining live tonight and hope that we can get those 3 points we need to kickstart our season. So thanks to Mike and thanks to Mary for joining us. And Townsend, all that's left to do is close the show with the famous
You whites.
You whites.